ARMY shocked. Jungkook confides after live. Jimin gives an unexpected response. Face screaming in fear, two hearts. The talk about BTS never ceases to be the center of attention, especially when two of the most talked about names, Jungkook and Jimin, again showed interactions that made ARMY feel between smiles and tears. Overnight, the mood of the fandom changed drastically after Jungkook ended his live with a sentence that was not only honest, but also touched to the core of the fans' feelings. No one expected that after the live ended, Jimin would give a response that was so surprising, so sincere, and so much more emotional than anyone could have imagined. It all started from a simple live that should only be a routine, but in the end it became a silent conversation between two friends whose relationship has always intrigued many people since the beginning. Jungkook started the live in his signature style, relaxed and friendly, while shaking drinks and occasionally playing with his hair that fell to his forehead. However, even from the beginning, some ARMY felt there was something different in the look in his eyes. He spoke slowly, as if holding something he wanted to convey, but continuing to restrain himself so as not to look too fragile. He explained how his recent days have been very busy, how he feels physically and mentally tired, but still tries to give his best to the fans. As he began to answer the questions from the incoming comments, the live atmosphere was slowly changing from cheerful to warm and melancholy. What left ARMY speechless was when Jungkook suddenly stopped talking, just staring at the screen with a faint smile that wasn't entirely happy. He lowered his head for a few seconds, trying to catch his breath before returning to talking. In a low, trembling voice, he said, "There are things I've wanted to talk about for a long time, but I don't know if I can convey them correctly." That sentence instantly made thousands of fans hold their breath, waiting for what Jungkook would reveal next. Jungkook did not immediately proceed. He seemed to be struggling with his own thoughts, while massaging his nape and smiling stiffly. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded more sincere than before. He said that lately he feels lonely despite being surrounded by many people. He feels grateful to have an amazing career and the ARMY support that never stops, but on the other hand, he feels there is a part of him that is constantly looking for something. He said that the last few days he has been reflecting more than usual, especially after talking to a member who is very close to him. Although Jungkook didn't mention names, all the ARMY knew who he meant: Park Jimin. Their interactions over the years have always been unique, intimate in ways that can't be described in words. Jungkook said that his last conversation with Jimin made him think a lot about himself, about his relationship with the other members, about his future as an artist and as a human being. He wants to be more honest about his feelings, but he also fears that such frankness may lead others to misunderstand. As the live went on, it became clear that Jungkook's outburst was not something he had planned. It just flowed, like a door of the heart that suddenly opened after being locked for too long. He even apologized to the ARMY for feeling the conversation had become too serious. But fans actually filled the comments with sentences of support, funny memes, and expressions of affection that made her smile reappear, albeit only slowly. When the live ended, fans thought the story was over. But in reality, the most surprising thing happened precisely after the screen went dark. In less than an hour after Jungkook's live ended, Jimin posted something that made the entire fandom explode. Not just a photo, not just a post, but a form of response that feels very personal, as if it is only addressed to one person: Jungkook. The post was a slightly blurry dark photo, showing dim room lights and a silhouette of a person sitting on the edge of a bed. There was no visible face, no definite identity, but the fans were sure it was Jimin. What makes the post really shake is its caption, which consists of only a few short sentences full of meaning. Jimin wrote, "I always listen. Even when you're not talking. Do not keep everything to yourself." That sentence, while simple, contains an emotional depth that makes ARMY wonder how close the personal conversations between the two have been. Comments on social media immediately exploded. Many linked the post to Jungkook's outbursts while live, mainly because of the timing. Some wrote that Jimin's response was like an invisible hug sent without the need to name names. There are also those who argue that their relationship has reached a level of understanding that does not require excessive words. Just enough sincerity that cannot be hidden. Jimin's response didn't stop there. 2 hours after his first post, he appeared on Weverse and wrote a longer message, this time aimed at the army, but with nuances that clearly imply someone in particular. He writes that sometimes the person who looks the strongest is the one who asks for help the least. He emphasized the importance of listening to each other, supporting each other, and not feeling the burden of living alone. Jimin also wrote that he and the other members always try to take care of each other, especially when one of them is going through a difficult time. Army began speculating that Jimin may have known what Jungkook was feeling before the live even began. They thought that Jungkook might have been telling a story, or at least showing signs of unrest, to which Jimin responded in the gentlest and most understanding manner. Many fans wrote that Jimin always had a strong instinct when it came to Jungkook, as if he could understand his partner's mood without having to say anything. What makes this moment even more interesting is how Jungkook then reappeared on another platform a few hours later, secretly giving likes to Jimin's posts. There were no comments, no direct replies, but that one small act was enough to make ARMY even more convinced that the two were communicating with each other in a way deeper than a casual exchange of messages. The relationship between Jimin and Jungkook has always been one of the most talked about dynamics in fandom. They have a long history since the trainee period, having gone through awkward phases, nosy phases, phases of relying on each other, until finally becoming friends whose emotional relationship seems to get stronger with time. When one shows deeper emotions, the other is almost always present to calm. And last night's moment is one of the clearest proofs of that dynamic. Some Korean music fan sites and analysts say that this kind of emotional interaction is the reason why BTS has an appeal that no one can replicate. Not just about music, not just about global achievements or accomplishments, but about the honesty of relationships between members that are so natural and full of empathy. In an entertainment industry that often demands a tough and flawless attitude, such warmth has become very rare. After last night's events, many soldiers wrote stories, theories, and love messages for Jungkook and Jimin. They praised Jungkook's courage to open up, as well as appreciating how gently Jimin responded. Not a few say that the moment makes them want to be more honest with their feelings, more open to those they care about, and more sensitive to the needs of their friends. A few hours later, Korean media began to pick up on the news, saying that Jungkook and Jimin's dynamic showed the value of friendship that is rarely seen in the world of celebrities. A journalist wrote that last night's interaction reminded many that BTS is not just a musical group, but a real family. Others said Jungkook's outpouring of heart was a form of honesty that proves that great popularity does not prevent a person from feeling lonely or confused. Jimin again touched fans when he appeared at the restaurant with the staff and was asked by someone if he saw Jungkook live last night. Jimin just smiled a little without explaining anything, but eyewitnesses said that the smile contained a proud, warm expression and seemed to say that he understood very well what Jungkook was feeling. Some fan sites reported that Jimin seemed to spend a long time looking at his phone, allegedly chatting with Jungkook in private. Now, after everything that happened, fans are waiting for whether the two will again greet ARMY together, or maybe show again how they support each other. But for now, Jungkook's moment of honesty and Jimin's warm response are enough to make the world feel a little softer today.